Shalom, my friends. Wow. This week has been a challenging week. As a dear friend and a member of our community lost their granddaughter in the holy city of Jerusalem, as she was standing guard protecting our people from coming and going into the old city, as many went and prayed at the Western Wall. Her name was Sergeant Elisheva Rose Ida Lubin. She's the granddaughter of Eva and Dan, who come to the Chabad of Nashville community. Sergeant Lubin was a lone soldier who moved to Israel from the United States and joined the border police as part of her military service. After completing her basic training, she was assigned to the border police of the Old City Brigade in the city of Jerusalem. Sergeant Lubin lived in Kibbutz Sa'ad, which was located in the south of Israel near the Gaza border. And on October 7th, when the Hamas came and massacred 1,400 people, she was locked up in the kibbutz, protecting her people, and rescued after 22 hours in the safe room. Miraculously, the terrorists did not come to where she was, as the gate was closed in honor of the Shabbat and the holiday of Simchas Torah. Rose was on duty outside the walls of the old city of Jerusalem when she was stabbed to death this week by a 16-year-old terrorist from the East Jerusalem neighborhood of Isawiya. Her friends in the brigade described her as a courageous, professional, value-driven, social and cheerful and kind-hearted soldier who always was willing to help everyone. She was the first to volunteer for any mission in order to protect her country, our country. Sergeant Rose Lubin came to the United States from Atlanta more than 2 years ago to serve as a soldier in the border police. In a most challenging role, she was far from her family in the United States, but she simply went out of love for the land, love for the country and its people, its values, and out of a deep sense of duty. And we share our love and comfort and support with Sergeant Lubin's family in Atlanta, her father David, and her mother Robin, and her siblings, brothers and sisters, and especially with her grandmother, our dear friend Eva, who's married to Dan Marks here in Nashville. So may the Almighty God avenge the blood of Sergeant Elisheva Rose Ida Lubin, who was murdered as a proud Jew protecting our homeland of Israel. And may God share comfort with her family amongst all the mourners of Zion in Jerusalem. And may they know only of good days ahead and no more any sorrow and challenges. So we dedicate today's thought of the Parsha in memory of Sergeant Lubin. May her soul rest in peace. Today's Torah portion is called Parshat Chayei Sarah. And as we know, the name of a Parsha usually deals with the story of the portion. So the name of this week's Torah portion is called The Life of Our Matriarch Sarah, Chayei Sarah. Yet, something baffling when you read the story. The name of the portion and the story of the portion don't really reflect one another. The name of the portion is The Life of Sarah. Yet when you read the story, it talks all about the deaths of Sarah, that her passing, her age, how she was buried, and so on and so forth. We read how upon her passing, Abraham went to the city of Hebron, and he purchased this cave called the Cave of Machpelah, place where Adam and Eve were buried. And he talks about how he purchased this cave for an extravagant amount of money and how he buried her. And then the portion goes on to tell us how Abraham was left all by himself. And his son Isaac went and he tried to find a wife for his son Isaac, and she met Rebekah. She was a very kind girl. And Isaac got married and life moved on. And finally, the end of the portion talks about how Abraham, at the age of 140 years old, remarried to Keturah, who some say were Hagar. Friends, this is so baffling. If the name of the portion is called The Life of Sarah, everything in this week's Torah portion talks about the death of Sarah and her life moved on. How Abraham found a place to bury her, and he spent a lot of money on buying this cave, and he made it so beautiful. It was all about her death. And then it talks about Isaac getting married and moving on, leaving the past behind. And more importantly, Abraham remarrying and having 6 more children with this new concubine. This is all about life past Sarah. So how could it be that the name of this week's Torah portion is called Chaye Sarah, the life of Sarah? Friends, something very profound to look here. Something to learn from that is actually related to Sergeant Rose Lubin. The Rebbe explains that after the death of Sarah, Abraham decided to do everything and anything to perpetuate her legacy. You see, Abraham and Sarah looked at life very differently. Why was Abraham called Abraham? His name originally was Avram, and it became Avraham, which means a father of a multitude of nations. Abraham actually believed that his task was to inspire the entire world that there's one God, Jews and Gentiles alike. Yet we know Sarah, on the other hand, wanted Abraham to focus on Isaac. As we know, there was a son called Ishmael from the concubine Hagar, and Ishmael was a very negative influence on Isaac. And Sarah said, send Isaac out of the home. Send Ishmael away from Isaac. Ishmael should leave the home. Because God said that Abraham's true inheritance, who was going to be his real offspring? Isaac, because he was born from his one wife, Abraham's wife Sarah, as Hagar was a concubine. But Abraham didn't want to send Ishmael away, because that was, after all, his son, even though it's from a concubine. So God says, whatever Sarah tells you, Abraham, listen to her voice. Because Sarah was about having a strong unit, a strong family, a strong relationship, husband and wife, father, mother, and children. Once that is strong, you can go and affect the rest of the world. Abraham was it was about the whole world, the greater vision. So when she passed away, Abraham said, I am going to perpetuate her legacy and really focus on showing the land of Israel that God promised us is ours forever. And our child Isaac is going to follow in her footsteps, and he's going to perpetuate her legacy. And her life will live on through the deeds that we're doing now. And that is why the Torah tells us he went and he bought a cave, and he didn't just buy any cave. He bought the most beautiful cave, and he spent a lot of money on it, 400 gold coins, 400 silver coins, which is the equivalent today of $10 million. Abraham said, I'm going to buy it. It's going to be ours. It's going to be a deed. The oldest deed of any real estate transaction in Israel was when Abraham brought the cave of the patriarchs. If someone says, show us that the land of Israel, Hebron, belongs to the Jewish people, we look in the Bible, we look in the Torah, this week's portion, exactly how much Abraham paid. He did it to show that Sarah wanted to focus on the land of Israel and the people of Israel. And that's why the Torah says, Chaye Sarah, Sarah lives on through the purchase of that cave to show that Israel is ours. And then it says Isaac got married. It was actually, when Sarah passed away, Abraham was very sad. But when Isaac married Rivka, Abraham was comforted. It's because when Sarah passed away, the miracles that took place in her tent stopped. But when Isaac married Rivka, Yitzchak married Rivka, it says 3 miracles happened again. There was a cloud above the tent all week long, like it was when the time of Sarah was there. The candles stayed lit for Shabbat candles throughout the week. And the bread that she baked for the challah for Shabbos stayed fresh all week. There was an aroma of fresh challah. These things took place when Sarah was alive. When she passed away, it stopped. And then when Isaac married Rivka, it all came back. So actually, Yitzchak perpetuated the life of his mother. Chaye Sarah lived on. Sarah lived through Isaac. And finally, this that Abraham married, a concubine afterwards, and he had 6 children. The Torah actually says he took everything he had and he gave it to Yitzchak. And he sent off gifts with the concubines to show a statement till now. Anyone that says that Abraham's offspring comes through Ishmael, the older one, the Torah says no. Ki be Yitzchak yikare lecha zera. Your offspring will be through your true wife, Sarah, as Hagar was just a concubine. An inheritance comes from a father to a son through a husband and wife that are married as a couple. So he gave, in the Torah says, Vayikach, he took everything he had and he gave it to Yitzchak. But to the concubine, he actually sent off, gave them gifts and he sent them away. But that's not the true inheritance. And that is what it means, Chaye Sarah. This whole portion shows us how Sarah lives on beyond the days of her life. as the land of Israel became ours with a deed, a real estate deed. And Isaac marrying Rivka continued and perpetuated the life of his mother. And the miracles came back of the candles, the dough, and the cloud. And finally, this that Abraham married the other concubines because Abraham wanted to, he gave them gifts and he showed them, yes, now that I have a strong relationship with my son and I brought him up, I want to influence the world that there's one God, Father, monotheism. But the Torah says in the end, the true son, the true inheritor of Abraham is Isaac. Friends, that is Chaye Sarah. That is the life of Sarah. And you and I can continue to carry on that legacy by making sure we light candles every Friday, by doing the mitzvah of challah, and by knowing that it is the woman that is the foundation of the home. God said to Abraham, listen to her voice, because when a man hears his woman's voice, he hears the intuition that his wife has, knowing more than what the man needs. The home is a strong home. And that brings about Chaye Sarah, that our matriarch Sarah lives on through us all. Friends, when someone passes away, their body is not alive anymore, but their soul lives on. Sergeant Rose Lubin was a very passionate young woman that loved her land, loved her people, loved Israel, and was a kind-hearted person. Let us give a gift to her family, that we will perpetuate her legacy by showing goodness and kindness to other people, doing things that are hard. She left her family as a young woman, dedicated her life as a lone soldier to the land of Israel. Unfortunately, her life has been cut short. Let us continue living her life for her, by living life with passion, with joy, with happiness, and doing things at times that are not so easy. And that is how it's not only going to be Chaye Sarah, it's going to be Chaye Rose Lubin, the life of Rose Lubin. She was a rose. And we are going to make sure that that rose is going to shine forth beautifully. We send forth our blessing and condolences to her family, that they only know of joy and happiness from this day on. And may the Almighty God bless them to only have nachas from the rest of their family and give them strength during this challenging time. And may the Almighty God bless the people of Israel and the Jewish people around the world to know only of peace. We should continue to stand strong and proud who we are, Am Yisrael Chai, to be a resilient people, a people that are not going to let anti-Semitism and hatred oppress us. As God shines through us, and as Isaiah said, we as the Jewish people will be a light to the nations. So I bless you all. Stand strong, be proud, and Am Yisrael Chai. We are an enduring, eternal people. Shabbat Shalom.